What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And we back home. We back in the studio, baby. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to catch up. We're going to get into a mailbag episode today, catching up on all your voicemails from over the course of the weekend. Just as a programming note, you'll be getting 3 episodes of Chicago Bulls Central over the course of the day-to-day, 2 mailbag episodes to catch up for the 2 that we missed over the weekend, and then your regular full episode of Chicago Bulls Central. So let's start it off right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So first off, before we get into the mailbag, you guys know I like to have a topic to start it off with. And coming into this preseason, it was the biggest question mark that we thought that we had was who was going to be the starting point guard. It seems like that's all been answered. You know, a lot of people thought it was going to be Goran Dragic. Some people thought Alex Caruso. I've always been very vocal that it was going to be Ayo Dosunmu, and so that's the way that it is seeming to be. The way that Ayo has played so far, I think that he has, even though that Alex Caruso has played well, Goran's had a better half than a full game. So say he didn't play in the game yesterday, but I think Ayo Dosunmu has just firmly just planted himself as the point guard, the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls while Lonzo Ball is out. Now, there have been more questions that have come up since then. Now, the starting position of Patrick Williams has been in question, even though Billy Donovan has said that it was going to be something that was temporary, wasn't a permanent demotion. We'll see how that ends up going, but I would assume who's now the Bulls starting point guard. Let me know what you guys think about that down below, about how Ayo has played as the starting point guard. Has it done enough for you guys that, you know, thought or wanted it to be Dragic or thought that or wanted it to be Alex Caruso? Has he done enough for you guys to say, hey, yeah, this is the guy that we should be rolling with, and I'm happy that the Bulls are rolling with him. Now, as far as Patrick Williams, we're going to get into that. We got quite a bit of voicemails on today's episode about Patrick Williams, so we'll talk about that there. But I do want to talk about just the Bulls bench and how's that's coming along. And it's been this preseason for the Chicago Bulls has given us a lot to look at, right? And when you look at the other teams in the East and in the NBA as well, like there's been some up and downs when it comes to Chicago Bulls, but like I would say that it's more positive than negative. We got a lot of positive things from like Vooch and how his play has been going and how that's going to play into certain things. I think so far with preseason, with only one preseason game left, it's way more positive than negative for me to take away from the Chicago Bulls play. But let me know what you guys think about everything down below. But let's go ahead. We're going to get into the first voicemail. This one is from Brad.
Hayes, this is Brad from Columbus, Georgia. When I listened to you talk about the contract extensions on Locked On Bulls, I was thinking Vucevic. I never thought Vucevic get anything less than a 2-year, $30 million extension because, you know, being a top 10 center, he's gonna deserve a contract worth $15 to $20 million. But looking at Steven Adams and Larry Nance, I'm thinking he's probably going to get anywhere from between $16 to $18 million a year. And as for Ayo, that's tough. If he's averaging anywhere around like 12 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, I can see him getting, I think what Derrick Rose got with New York, around 12 to 14 million a year, which I actually believe he's worth it, like, you know, 4-year, 48 million. After that, it's going to be rough because what type of sense do you get Pat Williams? And if you re-sign Kobe, what his deal going to look like? But also, what I heard on Locked On Bulls, Derrick Rose, I think he improved his game a lot. He was mostly offense and using his immense talent to get past people. It was just a beautiful thing to watch. But now I think he's more intelligent. He uses more of his experience. He's not just getting by on ability alone anymore. And I think that's made him a better player. It made him a better shooter. And I'm just impressed by what he's done. And I wanted Derrick Rose now on this team, not because of what he did in the past, but what he could bring to a team right now. Because I still trust him in the fourth quarter with the ball in his hand. But that's just my take on things. Have a good one.
All right, so Brad follows up on a video that I did last week about the extension numbers. Saying that Vooch with a 2-year, $39 million extension, IO or Kobe, but I want to focus on Vooch here, right? Patrick Williams' extension is going to be it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, right? Because with Patrick Williams, if this demotion is permanent, if Patrick Williams doesn't take that leap, things like that, if he doesn't really use this as motivation, it's going to be super interesting to see how he used. And I think that, if for those who say like Patrick Williams doesn't have the dog, or he doesn't have the killer instinct, he's too passive. If he doesn't wake up after a demotion like this, then yeah, we'll see how that extension is going to work. He's still going to get it, right? Let me be clear here. He's still going to get that extension, but what that's going to be and look like and how that's going to change the opinion of him around the league, even in trade talks, things like that, is going to be interesting to see. But I think one player that we need to talk about who's played well in every single preseason game, he's been very consistent. His three-point shot still hasn't fell at the rate that we want to see it at, but every other aspect of Nikola Vucevic's game so far this preseason has shown that he is not only focused, he's motivated. The team is focused on using him differently. In that second preseason game, we saw in the Bulls' second possession, they went to Vooch down low. And they're going to him early. They're going to him often. He's working on the block. His defense has looked some of the best that I've seen his defense look in a Chicago Bulls uniform. But it's preseason, right? And as I said with this, I say it with the good, I say it with the bad. It's just preseason. So we need to see if this is going to be a consistent part of Nikola Vucevic's game. But how Vooch has played so far in this preseason so far for the Chicago Bulls, like that 2 years, $39 million is easily what he could command. And, if they're still going to talk contract extension, which is one of the rumors that they're going to talk an extension at the beginning of training camp. We're now a few weeks into training camp. If that extension is going to be hammered out, and at least the way that he's played so far in preseason, he's answered just about every question that you want to see from Vooch. His passing has been good. The rebounding has been continually solid. He's blocked more shots in the first two preseason games, even though he didn't have any blocks in the third game, very well. His defense, his rotations, he's not getting caught out of position on pick and rolls anymore. He's focused, right? The steal aspect. Every bit of Nikola Vucevic and him still being that top 10 center in the NBA, it's on full display so far in the preseason. Now, as I said with that, it's just preseason. Are the Bulls going to, I don't know the exact extension date deadline where they have to figure out an extension. Are they going to wait some in the regular season to see if this is not fool's gold, to see if this is going to be something that he shows continually? But Vooch has done everything in his power, in his game, to show it. And it's been even more pointed out by just how the coaching staff has used him. Vooch working from the inside out, right? His passing, everything that is a good part of his game has just been on full display. When you look at that first game and Javonte Green and the chemistry, how many times he's caught Javonte on cuts, Vooch cutting himself. There's a lot of positives to be pulled out of Nikola Vucevic. And while I thought and was hoping that maybe the Bulls can get him on a $12 to $15 million contract, it may be more in that $17 to $20 million range. And with his play now, if that is consistent, he's more than worth it. A lot of the Vooch haters, a lot of the Vooch doubters have now moved over to P. Will, and that's understandable. But Vooch has, at least from the perception that he gave last season to how he's played so far in preseason, he's answered everything just about. Like I said, three-point shooting percentages still aren't quite where we want him, but he's not settling for the three-point shot. So it's less as a detriment to his game because he's still working down low. He's doing those type of things. And again, yeah, some of the centers that he's played against, you can point towards with that. But Vooch has looked really, really good in this preseason. And whatever that contract extension ends up being, I think he's more than earned it so far with his play. All right, let's get into the second voicemail. This one is from Ace.
What's up, Ace? It's Ace calling in, man, with another hot take. I know y'all gonna light my ass on fire for this one, but hey, here you go. Man, I love Ayo Dosunmu. The brother's gonna be a solid combo guard, I think, going forward. But I'm just gonna go ahead and let y'all have it, man. Listen, Dalen Terry basically did a lot of shit that Lonzo Ball was doing for us last year. I know everybody's trying to put him at the wing, let him play off the ball. He even said it in his post-conference interview the other day. I mean, he said, I've been playing point guard my whole life. When they asked him, do you want to play off the ball or with the ball in his hand? The guy said, man, I've been playing point guard my whole life, whatever the coach needs me to do, basically. This guy was a beast on offense and defense. The way he passed the ball was Lonzo Ballish. All I say is this. I know they're probably not going to start this guy because it's too early, and then he's got to get his turnovers and stuff in order. But to me, when I look at Io, he doesn't push the tempo as well as the Bulls would like. The only reason why the Bulls offense looks so great is because of how Lonzo Ball pushed that tempo last year. He created a lot of turnovers as well. He was a beast on both ends of the floor, and he shot the ball real well from three to space the floor. Eventually, I like to see Dalen Terry playing with the starters if he's going to play with that type of energy on both ends of the floor. And the way he pushes the tempo is exactly what we need while Lonzo Ball is out. Let me get your thoughts on that. Like I said, I know it's not going to happen. I know y'all going to light my ass on fire. It's only one preseason game, but if Dalen Terry plays the same way in this second preseason game, and he looks that good with that ball in his hands, we need to try and play that boy at point guard. All right, I'll let y'all later.
All right. Ace does what a lot of Bulls fans and a lot of sports fans do in general. I've done it at times, right? Let's be clear here. But to say that, Dalen Terry over Io or anything, like, if he's a rookie, and even when you look at, like let's be clear here, in the preseason game, he's not playing against other starters. Sometimes he's not even playing against other people who are going to be the first player off the bench for the other team. He's playing against kind of second and third stringer guys, and when he's made his impact. Now, with that being said, again, preseason caveat thrown out there, both for the positive and the negative. Dalen Terry has made some mistakes. They're rookie mistakes, you expect them. But let's slow down on making the Lonzo Ball comparisons, and even with that, right? The point forward in the NBA is a big thing nowadays. Yes, he does play better with the ball in his hand. Guess who else plays really good with the ball in their hand that's not a point guard? I believe his name is DeMar DeRozan, and he's on the Chicago Bulls team. So his position that Dalen Terry is going to end up playing may not be point guard. It may be, right? I'm not saying that it's outside the realm of possibility. But the key thing and what makes Dalen Terry special is his ability to play 1 through 4. With the 4 not quite being there yet, but we know AK has already said that he wants to see Dalen Terry eventually play some small ball 4. When you look at 6'7" with a 7-foot over 7-foot wingspan, he can play that position if he puts on some weight. But again, right now, Dalen Terry is just a ball player, and he's a player that's going out there and getting it. Yes, him playing with the ball in his hand is good. But him playing off the ball, what he's able to do in still, what he's able to do in transition, all those things are great. And you to say the Lonzo Ball comparisons, yes, they're there. But just because there are comparisons there doesn't mean he necessarily has to play the 1 in his career. Now, could there be a lot of advantages for Dalen Terry playing the 1 over the course of his career, looking at his size, his arm, his wingspan, everything like that? Yeah. But let's wait and see. I've always said, like, once the Bulls drafted Dalen Terry, I'm like, well, is Dalen Terry the heir apparent to DeMar DeRozan in many ways, right? When you look at his skill set, the fact that Dalen Terry hasn't been projected to be the best three-point shooter, even though in preseason so far, he shot it all right. Nothing amazing, right? But the way that he can handle the ball, he's projects to be a better defender than what DeMar DeRozan has been over the course of his career. And just the energy. Dalen Terry and the energy that he's plays with has been amazing. It's been a revelation, and it could pay dividends for the Chicago Bulls team, especially looking at the bench, whatever that lineup ends up shaking out to be. But I think we're when you try to make Lonzo Ball comparisons to Dalen Terry, you start getting too ahead of things a little bit. Let's let this man's game turn into whatever it turns into. Right now, Dalen Terry has the raw skill set to really, you can see him going anyway, right? You can see him going anyway. Yes, he's not projected to be the best three-point shooter, but that doesn't mean he can't end up turning into that with the right coaching, with the right development. And we know one thing that we know about Dalen Terry is that his drive to be great is going to push him to hit every bit of his potential more than likely from what we've seen so far. But I do think that Dalen Terry in his play so far has definitely got himself a spot in that rotation. Now, nothing major right away, and we can see that continue to grow over the course of the season. But Dalen Terry has definitely earned himself a spot in the Chicago Bulls rotation in whatever position that you can put him in. And the benefit of that as well is that it makes it easier for the Bulls roster not kind of being the best balance, right? We have a lot of depth, but we are thin at certain positions when you look at how those positions are traditionally played. So with that being said, having a player like Dalen Terry that you can fit in at the 3, that you can fit in at the 2, that you can play at the 1, it makes everything else kind of come together a little bit easier for the Chicago Bulls. And I like that aspect of Dalen Terry's game. And I think it's going to continue to pay off for the Chicago Bulls as things go forward. All right, let's go ahead and end that voicemail. We're going to get into this next one. And this one's from the old faithful, Jamal.
What's up, Hayes? It's your boy Jamal back again. Another voicemail for you. So just coming off of game 2 of the preseason against the nuggets and everything like that. I know everybody, the most controversial thing that people are talking about, not really controversial, but the biggest thing is that Billy Donovan brought Patrick Williams off the bench and kept Javonte Green in the starting lineup. I know a lot of people aren't high on Patrick Williams, and there are a lot of people who want him to be traded. Hell, even before the game started, there was a lot of people saying he's not that guy, and how happy they were he got benched and he lost his starting position. He's never going to be a starter and this, that, and the other. I need people to understand that, like, you know, this is preseason. Billy is just testing things and trying things out. Of course, the four starters that are guaranteed starting positions is Lonzo, when he comes back, DeMar, Zach, and Vooch and everything like that. And yeah, Patrick Williams was the number 4 overall pick and things like that. So I know a lot of people have these high expectations for him, but I think Billy said something that was really insightful, which is that he said we got to stop looking at, not that we can't have high expectations because they're a high pick, but he was like, sometimes we got to stop looking at it as because he's a number 4 overall pick, he needs to automatically be the starter. And sometimes you got to do what's best for the team. Me personally, I thought that when he came off the bench, there were times where I didn't think that they got him involved enough, but I also understand that he has to come out and be more aggressive and call for the ball. But I did like him playing with that bench unit as well. I thought he, in the second half, he became a lot more productive and everything. And it seemed like they were kind of passing him the ball a lot more to kind of get his shot off, and things like that. I've always stated that even with Patrick Williams being in the starting lineup, that I would like to see him run with the second unit even last season, just for the simple fact that because of DeMar, Zach, and Vooch already out on the court, he wasn't going to get that many shots up. Whereas I thought that him playing with that bench unit would allow him to be the main 1 or 2 scoring options off the bench.
Jamal comes with it every single time. Now, to his point, Billy Donovan testing out lineups and rotations. That's what preseason is for. Preseason is to work on specific things. Try to see what your strengths are going to be in the season. Try to see maybe some projected weaknesses if you can turn them into strengths with real game time action. That's what preseason is for. Now, with that being said, yes, he's using different rotations. Is it a motivating factor for Patrick Williams? That remains to be seen. But the expectations around P. Will, and people will like going to, oh, he was the 4th overall pick. P. Will didn't determine what overall pick he was. The Bulls determined that. The Bulls determined that they saw enough in him to pick him 4th overall. But you still got to allow him to turn into the player that's going to best suit him. And to Jamal's point, Patrick Williams is not going to get a lot of shots in the starting lineup. Now, he does need to be more aggressive. The coaching staff does need to run more for him. Absolutely, right? But when you look at a player and you look at the typical for 4th overall picks, they average more than 7 shots per game, which is what Patrick Williams has gotten in his career. And I know some people who don't actually watch games are going to get to typing and saying, well, how much is that? Because Patrick Williams passes up shots. If you actually watch this team and watch the way that the offense is ran, yes, Patrick Williams does, as every young player does, pass up certain shots. I give you that. But this team also has not ran offense for Patrick Williams at the level that you see other 4th overall picks do. Now, again, that's part of it. To paint the full picture, Patrick Williams still has to be ready. He has to be prepared. And as I said earlier in the show, if this is not a motivating factor for Patrick Williams, he needs to wake up. And if he does not wake up, then that limits what he turns into. Now, can he still be a productive player? Yes. Can Patrick Williams still turn into, to Jamal's point and what he went into, coming off the bench and being a productive player off the bench in his point forward role and the things that he's able to do? Absolutely, he still can. 21 years old, but the clock ticks on that every single day. That potential, at some point, you can only bet on potential past a certain point. And then you just become the player that you are. And so the jury's still out. For the people that still believe in Patrick Williams like me, we are hesitant to say this is just the player that Patrick Williams is just going to be. But for the people who don't see it for Patrick Williams, the people who are in these comments and say Patrick Williams is not that guy, guess what? We're giving them more and more ammunition, and rightfully so, to use the more that Patrick Williams does not make some type of leap. Like, again, the expectations of Patrick Williams to all of a sudden be an 18-point per game scorer, if you look at how this team is used and where he is on the pecking order, you're just not paying attention to basketball. If you think he's going to get the opportunities to turn into an 18-point per game player with DeMar, Zach, Nikola Vucevic, all ahead of him and all being high usage players, it's not really going to be there for Patrick Williams. That's why it is important to see him be more aggressive, be more confident in the opportunities and chances that he gets, because you're not going to get more opportunity if you're not showing that you're going to take the ones that you're given in this offense. So hopefully Patrick Williams turns into that. Whether this turns into Patrick Williams permanently coming off the bench or not remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, it's on the coaching staff and on Patrick Williams, and there's a duality there of the responsibility for us to really see what Patrick Williams is going to turn into. But let me know what you guys think about that one down below. All right, let's get into the last voicemail for this mailbag episode. We'll have another one later on today, and this one is from Marvin.
What up, Hayes? Marvin. Trying to get all this in real quick. Okay, I just want to give a grade on the Bulls in the first two games. I think everybody can agree with me that we were not happy with the first quarter of the first game, giving up 40 points, brought back old memories. Second quarter of the first game, we give up 30. We still was upset. But I do want to give Billy Donovan credit for making adjustments, getting back in that first game, and these guys playing competitive. That's what I was looking for. We didn't win the game. Wasn't looking for that, just making sure we had the tone. Game two. The Bulls wanted, and I really said this before this game started, I wanted to see the Bulls come out with the same intensity of the second half, and I think they did. What they did, an experiment with Javonte Green and Patrick Williams, no problem. The Bulls played with that lineup a lot last year. Also, grades for the players. DeMar's in prime form. I think he's doing well. Javonte Green looks good, guys. Booch is playing well. Io, we're going to get what we're going to get with him playing with those guys on the floor. And Zach LaVine, I think, was timid, and he'll get better. Think of this, guys. The Bulls could go 10 deep. I'm trying to get all this in, guys. If you start DeMar, Javonte Green, Booch, LaVine, and Io, your bench would be Pat, Drummond, Goran, White, and Caruso. And if you all can believe and understand what I'm thinking each one of those bench players should get at least 10 to 12 minutes a game. The Bulls could go 10 deep, and that's without Lonzo Ball or Dalen Terry. I think we'll be okay, guys. I think Billy's making adjustments, and I just wanted to chime in and say that. I think I did it perfect. Hey, peace out, guys. Let me know what you think.
All right, so I feel like we've talked a lot about P. Will on this episode, and I kind of wanted to group all the voicemails that in reference to P. Will all together. And a lot of this, we've talked about the benefits of Patrick Williams playing on the bench, things like that. There are great benefits to that. And it could be, and it could even be for his development as well. There could be some good positives into that. But the thing that I want to focus on Marvin's email specifically is the Bulls bench, right? And what he said in there specifically towards the end there, I think is very, very poignant. He mentioned that without Dalen Terry, without Lonzo Ball when he comes back, because Lonzo is probably going to start off on the bench, but even when he does go back in the starting lineup, then Io comes to the bench. This Bulls team is deep. And then when you look at Andre Drummond making threes out there, which is wild to me, right? 3 for 3 from 3-point range from Andre Drummond. But when you look at this Bulls bench, one of the key things and things that I drilled home very heavily last season, the Bulls ranked 29th in bench production last season. There's not been a team in the NBA that ranked at that position amongst their peers, and some people got to saying, oh, well, there have been other teams that average the same amount of points, different errors, different amount of points that are scored off the bench. I'm saying ranked amongst their peers in that area that has made a significant run in the NBA playoffs. The Bulls need to be deep. When you look at the fact that the Bulls' strength of schedule is hard, when you look at the fact that the Bulls have the fourth highest back-to-backs in the NBA, when you look at the fact that the Bulls have the rest disadvantage in more games than not next season, having a deep bench for the Chicago Bulls team and players that are ready to step up are going to do big dividends for the Bulls. Now, the Bulls' bench production was a little bit skewed last season. When you look at Javonte Green, for example, was a player that was projected to be on the bench that moved into the starting lineup. May he still be a starter this season, and then the injuries and COVID and things like that. So it was fluctuating. But at the end of the day, right, having a Dalen Terry, having a Patrick Williams, having an Alex Caruso, having an Andre Drummond, having Derrick Jones Jr., having these players that can come in, and when you really look at those players, are all the threat to possibly score double-digit points. Patrick Williams, good for 9, right? Andre Drummond, you give him 20, 22 minutes, he's good for 9 and 10. Alex Caruso, we know, can get you 9 points, if not 10 points, any day of the week. Kobe White can get you more than that, and more times not even being inconsistent can get you about 12 points per game. Patrick Williams, so this Bulls bench has a possibility of not only being full of players that can go two ways, right? Players that play on both sides of the ball. So we'll see what that ends up developing into. But right now, the Chicago Bulls bench has a lot of positivity surrounding it, and I'm excited for it. And having a productive bench for the Chicago Bulls with how hard the season is going to start off, with all the things that I labeled about the schedule, can bode well for the Chicago Bulls. Very, very well for the Chicago Bulls. So let's see where it takes us. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for welcoming me back, first of all, after vacation. Shout out to my sister Shy on her wedding and everything going out there in Cali. I'm so glad to be back in the studio, though. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, you can send us a text and our voicemail, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot because we are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. I'm Rusty. But like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.